welcome back to the Am I Mental podcast, the Doctors in Court edition. In today's podcast, I'm going to take you through an intriguing legal case involving an orthopedic surgeon. The case revolves around an expert report he provided and how that report and some missing details became a key issue in a court battle. I'll take a look at the timeline of events, the medical complexities, and the decision handed down by the court. And this one is about responsibility, both in medical practice and in providing expert opinions for legal cases. Let me break this case down into a timeline to better understand what happened. In July of 1995, Mr. Janssen, who I'll refer to as a patient, suffered a Weber A fracture to his right ankle. And this is a common type of fracture that usually heals with conservative treatment like immobilization. On August 7, 1995, the orthopedic surgeon discharged Mr. Janssen from care, concluding that the fracture had healed. However, Mr. Janssen continued to experience pain and swelling in his ankle. 2 days later, Mr. Janssen visited his general practitioner, who noted swelling and restricted movement in the ankle. A month later, the patient's ankle issues persisted, and he continued to visit his GP, and eventually he was referred for physiotherapy in October and November 1995, but despite these efforts, his symptoms didn't improve. A month later, the patient's ankle's issues persisted, and he continued to visit his GP, and eventually he was referred for physiotherapy in October and November of 1995. But despite these efforts, his symptoms didn't improve. On the 4th of December 1995, a follow-up scan revealed that the fracture had not healed and was diagnosed as pseudoarthrosis, and that's a failure of the bone to heal properly. This condition would require surgical intervention to correct it. In January 1996, Mr. Janssen underwent osteosynthesis surgery to fix the non-healing fracture. But even after the surgery, he continued to suffer from nerve pain in his toes, which persisted for a very long time. Before I continue, let me quickly cover a few medical terms here so that everyone is on the same page. Weber A fracture. A Weber A fracture is a type of ankle fracture where the fibular bone is broken, typically treated conservatively with a cast. Delayed union is a term used to refer to a fracture that's healing slower than expected, but it still has potential to heal without surgery. And pseudoarthrosis is a condition where the bone fails to heal and a false joint forms. It's more severe and usually requires surgery to correct. Understanding these terms is key to this case, as the patient's diagnosis progressed from delayed union to pseudoarthritis, which directly impacted his treatment and recovery. Remember that in these cases, I always use pseudonyms in order to protect patient and doctor privacy. So let's get back to the case. The patient filed a lawsuit against the orthopedic surgeon and the hospital. And to support this case, the court appointed Dr. C, an orthopedic surgeon, to provide an expert report on whether Mr. Janssen's ongoing issues were related to the initial mismanagement of his fracture. Now, Dr. C reviewed Mr. Janssen's case and produced a report in February 2004. However, Dr. C's report omitted crucial details, and most notably, he failed to mention the follow-up visits Mr. Janssen had with his GP in August and September 1995 and his physiotherapy treatments from October to November 1995. And these visits could have indicated the fracture was not healing properly and might have influenced the treatment decisions at the time. And Dr. C's report was based on a timeline that excluded these key pieces of information, which led to questions about its accuracy and completeness. And so here's something that has been on my mind. What are the ethical implications of an expert's report missing key details? So in this case, Dr. C omitted facts that could have impacted the outcome of the lawsuit. And how can we, as medical professionals, ensure that when we're providing expert opinions, we are presenting a full and accurate picture, especially when it's for a legal case? Now, I think we all have a responsibility to be thorough and transparent, whether we're treating a patient or offering an opinion in a legal case. And leaving out key facts, even unintentionally, can change the entire course of justice. Now let's move to the legal outcome. The case eventually came before a disciplinary court, which reviewed Dr. C's actions. The court agreed that Dr. C, the expert opinion doctor, had failed to properly include crucial details from the patient's medical records in his report. And this was a significant omission because it influenced how the court understood the chain of events. However, the court did not believe that his omission changed the final outcome of the case, meaning that even if the report had included these details, it wouldn't have likely affected the legal judgment. The court acknowledged that the report's conclusions were generally sound, but criticized Dr. C for the lack of completeness. And in the end, the court imposed a warning on Dr. C rather than any more severe penalties. In reviewing the evidence, the court looked at several key factors. The report written by the expert opinion orthopedic surgeon was scrutinized and omissions were noted. The most significant evidence presented was the patient's medical records, which clearly showed that he had sought additional care after his discharge from the orthopedic surgeon. And these records, particularly the GP's notes and physiotherapy treatments, painted a different picture of Mr. Janssens, the patient's recovery, from the report that was conveyed by Dr. C. Dr. C, the expert opinion orthopedic surgeon, did admit that the omission of these facts was a mistake. However, he maintained that the diagnosis and the eventual surgical treatment were appropriate regardless of the omission. And the court ultimately ruled that while Dr. C's errors was serious, it did not change the outcome of the case, and therefore a warning was the appropriate sanction. So what can we learn from this? First, as medical professionals, we must ensure that we are thorough in our assessments and documentation, especially when our reports could have significant legal or financial implications. Second, when something goes wrong, owning up to mistakes is crucial, but even more important is how we respond to ensure that it doesn't happen again. I think this case serves as a reminder that the smallest details can have a big impact, whether we're providing care or we're offering expert opinions. So again, even in my practice, I try to do this every day, and I'm not perfect at all. And I'm doing these podcasts to remind myself of certain small things in order to improve patient health. Always double check your facts and make sure you've got the whole picture before drawing conclusions. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I hope that you found the case and discussion thought-provoking. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment or share your experience with me. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And until next time, take care and keep loving what you do.